So if you're not caught up, meat creatures are taking over everything. In my last video, I covered Vita Carnis Part 1. Vita Carnis is an analog horror series that details the strange events and creatures of this thing called the Crawl that produces these meaty, horrifying abominations to God that are not fun. So I recommend you check out that video if this is the first video you're finding. But for those of you who are already caught up, or maybe for those of you who are familiar with Vita Carnis up until this point, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. So the first video I'm going to talk about is called Cook at Home Kitchen. And it starts off with someone flipping through the channels. Now I would wager that hardly any of these channels that we see are by accident. Perhaps a few are, but the first little clip we see and then another one I think are very important. Most definitely one of these clips is extremely important. So I'm only going to talk about the one that I know for sure has important narrative ramifications. We see a wanted poster for someone named Vincent and this person is wanted by the CSIS, whatever that is, the Society for Silly Interbreeding Squirrels, whatever. They're after him. But Vincent is wanted for distribution of illegal materials. My guess is that that is the documentary that we have just watched. Because at the beginning of all that it said, you know, production and viewing of this is illegal. So perhaps he was copying those and doing whatever. But, moving on, we're going to get into the video now. This video is a cooking video that details a recipe for cheesy penne crawl pasta. It's disgusting.
To start off, these will be the ingredients you will need. 3 cups of penne pasta. Roughly 3 cups worth of fresh crawl. Try to get a variety of sizes when you buy yours, or when you harvest them yourself.
There's a part where they're like chopping up the crawl to put into it, and it's gross. Somewhere there towards the end or middle part of that video, the presenter says we need to put plenty of Nutrier flavor enhancer on it. And this stuff has this little logo on it. Remember that. The next video is absolutely adorable, and it is called A Guide to Owning a Pet Trimming. If you'll remember from the first video, trimmings are those little meat raccoons, and you know, at first I thought that was kind of gross, but this video is absolutely the most adorable thing ever.
They love receiving pats, scratches, and pets. They also love to sit with you and cuddle.
However, this video isn't all just sunshine and rainbows. There is this.
A thing to remember is trimmings are nocturnal and make plenty of noise.
There's something about that screaming that just doesn't sit right with me. It'd be enough for me not to have one of these as a pet, but, you know, I digress. Otherwise, that video is basically just there for a good laugh and to be adorable and to just, you know, be like a resting point for where we're going now, which is the other direction. And that is with the next video that details the story of a meat snake found in 1945 in an abandoned subway. It seems World War II is over and these crews were going in to sort of clean up from the war, and they found this massive meat snake in a train tunnel.
During routine sweep of an underground train tunnel, the cleanup crew made a grotesque discovery. Found completely filling the tunnel was a meaty wall, and in the center of the mass was an opening with several skulls surrounding it. Closer inspection of the blockage revealed that the mass was actually an extremely engorged meat snake. Its impeccable size had blocked off the entirety of the tunnel's path. There was many strange things with this creature. First was the coloration. A typical meat snake's color is bright reds and light browns. This particular meat snake was a very deep maroon. Another strange thing about it was its behavior. This creature barely moved. Meat snakes are normally sluggish and encumbersome, but the specimen discovered seemed to lack even basic motor functions. Its behavior was that of a plant's. Stationary, with only minor movements within. One would assume it was dead. The reason the meat snake may act this way may be because it was completely lodged in place and minimized movements to conserve energy. But how would it have gotten this deep into the tunnel in the first place? And by the looks of weathering, it had been in there for quite some time. So how did it get so large? The answer was discovered by a different cleaning crew, who found the other end of the tunnel. They followed it until it met with the other end of the meat snake. Alongside it was a huge pile of meat snake was later discovered to be missing by unknown survivors. How the meat snake grew in size was discovered to be
War snake? Eh? Also, at the end of all these videos, there's a storybook page that flashes for just a second that tells a seemingly random story. However, I will go over that at the end. I don't want to get into every single one of them as we go along because I feel like it'll just get confusing. Right now I want to focus on the main story, then we'll get to those at the end. Same thing I did at the first video. So after the war snake video, we get this, which is a mimic defense instructional video.
As of the time of this video's release, we have been facing a concerning increase of missing persons and fatalities on a global scale. The reason for this is because we are under attack. We have discovered that there has been a significant growth of mimic populations, which is threatening public safety. National leaders have released this instructional recording to teach you on how to defend yourself. Here is what you need to know about the threat. Discovered that there has been a significant growth of mimic populations, which is threatening public safety. National leaders have released this instructional recording to teach you on how to defend yourself. Here is what you need to know about the threat. Mimics are humanoid, intelligent predators that are highly adaptive and feed solely on human prey. Mimics gain information on people by watching their daily lives and pick to hunt people when they are most vulnerable. The most common times a mimic will attack is when you are asleep, out walking alone, or in a cornered position. Mimics are cautious and calculative creatures, taking precautions to ensure a successful hunt. They utilize various tactics to capture a person by surprise. One of the more well-known tactics is hiding itself inside of furniture, to blend into its environment. Common objects that mimics can hide inside are sofas, recliners, wardrobes, ottomans, and other places a mimic can comfortably wait. If you find a mimic that hasn't discovered you yet, stay out of sight. Call the authorities and alert them of your location. Stay where you are to avoid startling the mimic. If the mimic gives chase, run. Try to get somewhere out of sight and hide. Do not leave the area. Officials will need to locate you to help. Stay low and stay quiet.
After this sort of PSA film shows, the video cuts to found footage of Christopher and Janice Case in 1983 on their way to investigate the site of a grisly crime that the police were covering up and the authorities wouldn't let anyone there, and it just wasn't sitting right with Mr. Christopher. So he and his wife, presumably, or possibly sister, are walking towards this place where this has happened. And it's a fair bit of a hike, and he's got a camera that's kind of faulty, so it keeps recording when he's not meaning to. So you kind of watch a lot of just like the ground for a while. However, some of the conversation is important to the lore. Once they actually arrive at the scene of the crime, things kind of go haywire. Christopher hands Janice the camera as he goes off to explore, and then awful things happen.
Chris? What are you doing? Chris, this isn't funny. Oh! God!
next video is
The worst thing ever.
this video starts off by telling us that harvesters, if you remember what those are migrating. There was an anomaly in their density pattern, and this was observed from August to October of 1983, 1989. Then the video shows us these like out of focus still shots of children playing in the woods, and you can just kind of hear the ambience of the woods and the children playing, and it shows us this picture of a family, this really weird looking picture of a family, but it shows us this family. And then the worst thing ever happens. I've seen some pretty messed up stuff with the analog horror, but this takes it. This is it. This is the worst thing in analog horror, and by that I mean the best, but it's awful. Here you go.
They love receiving pats, scratches, and pets.
Sorry, I needed that. Yeah, so the harvester killed 2 members of this family, and we see what that toxin that the harvester has within its tendrils actually does, and it's awful. However, this does make me think of an Easter egg from back in the documentary when we saw the flash of a newspaper clipping that said family attacked by harvester, authorities refuse to do anything. Now that I think about it, there was also a newspaper clip for the meat snake. So there's that. I completely forgot about that in the meat snake section of this. I'm sorry. So after this, the last video on the channel proper is a Nutrico commercial for the Flavor Enhancer and the Flavor Enhancer Deluxe.
That is why we, at Nutri Co., have made it so that you may enjoy every single bite you take. With our product, the Flavor Enhancer, you can extract every last morsel of taste from your plate. With overwhelming demand for this essential product even since our start earlier this year, we have delivered what you wanted. Now introducing the Flavor Enhancer Deluxe. Now packaged in a larger size and modified recipe, there is now even more savory goodness to go around. Since our debut in mid-1990, the Flavor Enhancer has shown to be a major hit, with our product flying off the shelves. The Flavor Enhancer Deluxe will allow us to satisfy your growing, tasting needs.
I want to mention that in the cooking video and in this video, they keep repeatedly flashing please apply below 60 degrees Celsius, which is 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what to make of that information, but it's repeated a bunch, so it's probably important. I'm just not smart enough to figure out what that means. And as this commercial goes on, it starts to seem more and more like it's not really a commercial as much as it is mind control. Because at the end of it, it's just like a dude like, you gotta have it, like pouring it on a slice of bread.
Flavor Enhancer Deluxe. Required for all meals, no matter how small it seems, just a little more. It is crucial to everyday eating.
You need the flavor enhancer to enjoy eating. You need the flavor enhancer.
Consume.
You need it.
You must need it.
You must.
Consume.
Something's off here. It's a bit odd. Strange, you might say. Goofy, if you will. Silly, if you feel so inclined. If you go to the description of this video, you'll get something that's fairly common within analog horror, but it's a first for the series, and that is a hidden video. This is an unlisted video on Darian Quilloy's channel, and this link will take you right to it, and you will find out that there's been a lawsuit against Nutrare because people are getting sick. And it keeps showing these clips of ants, and I have no idea what to make of that either, other than like maybe the ants have been taken over by some sort of fungus in the brain and is controlling them, because I know that's a thing that's real. And it keeps showing scans of a brain, and I think this is just what the Nutrare has done to people's brains. It's kind of eating away at it, or perhaps taking it over. Oh, and then there's these clips at the end where we see military leaders and then a picture of a lot of them, and they have this little pin, and this should look familiar because this is the logo on all of the Nutrico's flavor enhancers. Also, there's like a company called Carcass that is at odds with the government for not applying for certain things and doing certain things right. It's just a little clip. I don't think we really have much to go off of here. Hey, you, hey, no. Yeah, this is me in the future. So I had this video completely finished, edited, everything, and then Vita Carnis dropped another video. So I had to really quickly insert this in here. This video seems to be revealing a lot of information to us and still providing us with more questions, but a little more clarity as to what to question and where it's going. So I'm going to show that video right here.
You might be confused as to why you received this package. This was left to you because we share a common goal. I'm aware that you studied Carnis and researched their properties. I'm also aware that you received backlash for doing so. Something isn't as it seems, and you know this too. Unexplained phenomena, countless casualties, missing persons, fatalities, and yet no proper action, and a notable silence about these affairs. People are afraid and confused. Why is nothing being done? Because they don't want us to know. We've been kept in the dark while those above us slither amidst the blind. They have slowly been numbing our minds to their schemes, but they've made one crucial error. Trails, crumbs, traces of information. I've collected these pieces and found their loose ends. This is why I've left this message to you. The documents included with this statement is all the information that I have gathered. Every continuity, every cover-up, every clue that I could find, they all lead here. Something has been going on these few years. Something big. Something they don't want us to know about. Which is where you come in. I don't have the power to change things, but you do.
So what I think this video means is that all of those newspaper clippings we've been seeing flashing in and out of all of the videos, so far have been this guy interfering with all of the Carnis documentaries, because there was a clipping in there that said teenagers arrested for the Carnis documentary, and if you'll recall, earlier on in this very video, I said that this guy was probably wanted for making that documentary or distributing it of some kind, and I still think I'm right about that. I think that confirms that. Possibly could be wrong, but whatever. Do you remember how the last video ended with the new log 2 carcass and it just ended before you saw anything in there? Well, there you go. That's what it is. It's this unidentified person giving them this information, all of this stuff that he's found. It seems that all of the Carnis are locating to this one specific location in Canada, in the Hudson Bay, I think. I'm not from Canada, but I'm pretty sure that's where that was. And there's something about the anomaly. I really should have looked this up. The orb thing, the floating orb, there was brief mention of it before the documentary like glitched out. This video is interjected in between what seems to be a documentary about the monoliths, and there's just kind of some creepy imagery there with how huge they are, and there's like birds flying up by them, and it's weird. So it seems that this person is communicating through footage, and he's giving it all now to the Carcass organization. A whole lot confirmed about cults, you know, plotting something huge here. This is huge. This is a big deal. This blows the doors wide open on this whole thing. It's like it blew the doors open to a dark room, because there's a lot of it that still doesn't make sense. But we'll see. Alright, back to the original ending of my video. Just thought I'd throw that in so you get all the information. Before I theorize on that, I want to talk about the storybook that goes along with all of these. If you're a fan of the series, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's all of these little pages that show up at the end of every episode. A lot of these are hard to read, so some of these I'm doing my best, and other ones I just kind of paraphrase from what I saw people were saying and said in the comments. So if I get something wrong, I'm terribly sorry. The first storybook page talks about the critters feeding the prince while he's asleep to try to rejuvenate him and regenerate him. And then next we hear that the prince has awoken, and a lot of the critters kind of run and hide. Eventually they warm up to him, and the critters show the prince their world, and they describe to him these terrible things that are on the horizon and bound to happen, and that they face a major disaster. The prince uses some of his powers to heal what he can, but ultimately he ends up sailing away, heads for his own home, and promises to return and help the critters. That's the whole story that we have so far, along with what happened in part 1. I'm not going to recap that here. Go check out my part 1 video or the original source material itself. Both will be linked down below. I want to cover a few theories, and they kind of go along with both of these things. Quite obviously, the storybooks and the main story itself have something in common. They tie a theme together. It's either symbolism or something. The little critters are triangles, and so is the Nutria Company's logo, and it's heavily implied that there's cult activity. We even saw something highlighted in one of those newspaper clippings, cult activity. So we know that there's cult activity going on. I think that's pretty obvious with the Nutria Company's commercials and those like redacted pictures of those guys. I think that's pretty obviously a cult. That little pin on their shoulder matching the logo of the Nutria Company itself. Also, there appears to be a parallel in with the way the little critters look in the storybooks. They're triangles. Maybe I'm looking into that too deeply, but it makes sense to me. So if that's the case, then I think these storybooks are telling the story of the cult relationship with the Crawl, the magical prince representing the Crawl, and these little critters representing the cult. And something is at danger with their way of life, and I don't know what that would be. I'm trying to think of things that kind of started around 1931. Nothing insane. The Great Depression is all I can think of. Okay. Because the Crawl just suddenly happened in 1931, perhaps this was some sort of failed government experiment to try to grow food for people who are starving. It was just a completely failed experiment, but it mutated, and now we've got what we have now. Makes a whole lot of sense to me. So I guess we'll see where this goes from here. I hope this was a pretty comprehensive video And by comprehensive, I mean easy to comprehend. Probably wasn't because it's me, but you know, again, this was a part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, I will put that in the description. And as always, I would like you to go check out the original source material itself, and that will be linked down below as well. Darian has done an amazing job with this series. I think it's probably my favorite analog horror series ever. Yes, I said that. It's my favorite. It really is. So I think I've said all I can say until we get more information on Darian Kuloy's side, on the side of the Vita Carnis storyline. So otherwise, all I'm going to say is I've got lots and lots of creepy analog horror things on the back burner. So stay tuned for all of that. Thank you guys so much. See you later.